All right. Well, welcome back, campers. Today we're going to hear from Sue Klumpf, and I'm so excited to hear this. I've been waiting for 2 weeks to hear your conversation, and I think you do want it to be a conversation, so that'll be great. If you don't know, Sue's a third-generation Oregonian, and she was raised in Grants Pass. She has a bachelor's degree in business management. See, I'm already intimidated. And she is a property lines, property casual, independent insurance agent. And she has certification in insurance counselor. So see, a camp counselor, another one, great. She joined AAUW in 1998, and again, that length of experience, 22 years, intimidates me. She has been several officers in her branch in Grants Pass. She's been president twice and membership chair. She's been, oh, get this one, state bylaws and policies. Policies, get it? Insurance. Anyway, chair. Sorry. And she served on the national membership committee. So if you don't think she knows what she's talking about, you're wrong. But I was going to wear this Grants Pass shirt today, Sue, but I would have had to iron it. And you know how that goes at camp. We don't iron.
That's why I didn't wear mine either.
I want to remind everyone to fill out, to color their camp page. And I already have my chalk for Chalk the Vote. Oh, Nancy, pretty. You're just getting started. Okay, Sue, take it away.
Welcome and thank you. I know this is our second one today, and we have been on an incredible journey these last few weeks. Starting with the development process, the ideas, Pat Squire's ideas come into fruition. And then we throw in Nancy Brown and her tech skills. We could not have done this without the two of them. So they get shout out smiles. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good. And I also want to welcome Jenny Didium, who is our AAUW of Oregon Membership Vice President. She's joining us today as well. So she's going to help field questions, and we're going to hear from her a little bit later too. So Jenny, thank you. So today we're going to we're kind of going threefold. We're going to start talking a little bit about membership recruitment. We're going to go into membership retention, and then we're going to spend some time talking about how to enhance membership engagement in today's Zoom world, or virtual reality, we'll call it. So we'll work in time for questions and interaction in between there. But first, is everybody welcome, ready to walk through the membership door together? Who hasn't felt like we've entered the twilight zone? Yeah, we have been through an incredible journey these last few months. Virtual reality has become our reality. Whether we've changed our format for pretty much everything in our lives. So as we've done that, one of the things for me is sometimes it's important to come back to our core values. We need to come back to why we do what we do. Life gets so scattered and so out there that we just need to come back to basics. So I think for us, one of the things we really need to talk about is AAUW. We are members of American Association of University Women. And I'm going to read this just because I can. But our mission is AAUW advances gender equity through research, education, and advocacy. Our value promise is by joining AAUW, you belong to a community that breaks through educational and economic barriers so that all women and girls have a fair chance. AAUW empowers all women and girls to reach their highest potential, incredibly important. And our diversity statement, AAUW values and seeks a diverse membership. There'll be no barriers to full participation in this organization on the basis of gender, race, creed, age, sexual orientation, national origin, disability, or class. Very, very important for us to bring back to our cores and remember what we are, who we are, and just what this connection is between all of us. AAUW is what connects us all. That's the thread between every one of us here today, and the thread between our 1,100 women throughout the state of Oregon and the 170-ish thousand members throughout the nation. So just remember, think about that as we're going through our talk today. But that Values are nonpartisan, fact-based, integrity and inclusion and intersectionality. And those of you who saw Kim Church, when she was with us, she talked a lot about that and kind of brought us back into where we need to go with that. So anyway, remember today and keep that in mind. And if anybody noticed, I went into a different virtual reality when we were working on that. I was just thinking about it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about growing our membership. And Jenny sent me an email just before we were ready to start today that our membership numbers are down with that. And that's not surprising considering where we're at and where our world has gone these last few months. But we are still vital and important, and I don't want to let that dissuade us from what we're doing. So when we're talking about growing our membership, each of our branches are different. We have 24 branches throughout the state. Some are very large, some are small, most are in between. So some things that will work for one of our branches doesn't necessarily mean it works for another. So what you have to do is you have to figure out what your target market is when you're looking at wanting to bring in new members to your branch. What direction do you want to take and how do you start? You want to start with a plan. I mean, we have our strategic plan that Pat Lehman has been working so much on, our national strategic plan. That can give you some working goals, some ideas in there at that point. But you need to sit down with your board and with your branch and decide, what do you want? Do you want new members? Do you want your branch to grow? I mean, that's the first question to ask. And if so, find out what your target market is and how can you proceed with that. But to do that, I mean, in my industry, okay, I'm an insurance agent and I go, don't say boo or I will make Nancy make you go away. Yeah, so I'm an insurance agent, and three things that I have to keep in mind with my industry, and I've done this for 29 years, so I've been doing this for a long time. The good thing is I still love my job. I love what I do, and after 29 years, I'm grateful for that. Yeah, but you know, the first thing you want to do is you have to know your product. If you're going to sell, you have to know your product. So that's why we started the way we did today. Is we need to know what it is that we're doing in order to bring in new people. So when you're talking to somebody in line at the grocery store, or you're talking to a friend over dinner, and you bring up AAUW, you want to have a little bit of knowledge with that. You want to have a little bit of working knowledge so you can have that discussion with them and pique their interest a little bit. If you just say, oh, we're members of AAUW, here's a business card, this is our next meeting, you're going to go, yeah, you're not going to get a lot of reaction there. So take it a little bit farther. And as your branch, you know, you want to look at, are you visible in the community? Are there ways you can be visible in the community? And I know in listening these last few weeks and in mine and Pat Lehman's discussions with our branch presidents, you guys are doing a lot out there. I mean, I'm incredibly impressed the things that I'm hearing that some of our branches are doing in the community. But keep in mind, be visible with that. There are, you can go to your local printers and get banners. So if you have a booth at a, for example, at a, oh my gosh, I'm thinking like a vegetable show or whatever it is that you're doing in your community, and you have a table there and you want to talk about AAUW, have a banner. That starts your conversation. That starts your conversation with that. So how do we convey who we are and what our mission is to our community and to our branch members? How do we put that out there? When a new member, potential new member, walks into a meeting, what do they see? How do they feel with that when they're walking into that door? And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a personal example. And my Grants Pass peeps, forgive me for this one because it was a long time ago that this happened. But when I joined 22 years ago, I came into my first meeting and I was incredibly uncomfortable. I walked in and it was a very large open space and people were sitting at the tables, you know, clicky. There was one person at the door that met me as I came in, gave me a name tag, and then they said, go ahead and go mingle. Like I walked in and I stopped and went, oh, because nobody looked. I mean, if they looked, they just stopped and they looked. Nobody got up, nobody made an effort. There were no smiles or no welcome at all there. And that's pretty much how it was the rest of the night. And I felt so uncomfortable. My branch has changed incredibly over the years. You will never find that in our branch now. There have been so many changes and adaptations that have now dissuaded that. But keep that in mind when you are at your membership, when you're at your membership table, you're at your meetings, and that person comes in. How do they perceive you? What is the first thing you see? So do it yourselves. Do it yourselves. As you're walking through the door, stop and look around. What do you see? And how do you want to feel when you walk in that door? And take that for that next step farther. So my branch, we usually have 2 people at a welcoming table, one doing name tags. There's some other things. We now have a membership table. So those new potential members are welcome to a certain table. Our membership vice president and usually 1 or 2 other branch members are there, board members, to welcome and engage. They're introduced around the room. Sometimes I think we're almost swarming them a little bit. But, we do a great job. And, we were blessed these last couple of years to have Suzanne and Lee as our presidents, and they worked really hard to get this philosophy going. So that's my branch brag for the day. But look at your branches. Look at how you have it set up. Look how your rooms are set up. And think about what it is what you want with it. Are we welcoming? Are we inclusive with that? When you get those people in the door, follow up with them. Not only at that meeting, follow up with them later. If they join, follow up with them. You have somebody that gives them a call and says, welcome, make it a personal thing with it. Make them feel important to your organization. I think that's going to be one of the vital things you're going to do to get them in the door and keep them from going out the door at the end of that next year.
Sue, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Does your branch meet in a public place, or do you meet in members' homes?
We meet in a public place normally, yes. Yeah, we have a Grange that we use, so it's open to public, and we try to make as many, and Lee or Suzanne, jump in here if I'm wrong, but we try to make as many of our meetings open to public as we can. Mm-hmm. So our programs are quite often advertised to open that up with that. But yeah, okay, so you get them in the door, you get to know them a little bit. Let's say they don't sign up that day. They tell, the membership people, well, I'll give them some thought. Let me think about this. All right, and they leave. Understandable. Everybody has to go through that thought process. But follow up with them. Give them a call. Say, hey, we were so glad to see you. Did you have any questions? Make sure that they leave that day with your membership packet and with that contact information. So let's go back. Let's say they do join. You got to make sure that you get them in there. You want to give them some sense of ownership and connection immediately. It's an immediate situation with that, because you want to connect them. We've talked a lot about in Pat's session, we talked a lot about mentorship and developing leadership. You don't want to hit them first thing when they start joining to go on the board with that. You don't want to just do that. It's got to be a non-guilt situation. Let them get to know you. Let them get to know the organization. Let them feel comfortable. Connect them in ways that, maybe with interest groups, that connect them in ways to get to the websites that they need to get to, the national, state, and your local websites. Give them that information. Get to know them. Get to know their needs and what it is they're looking for. It's not all about us. It's about them with it when they're first joining. So we need to make those connections. We also need to make sure they know our mission. They know our information. So teach them. It is our job to teach them who and what we are, what our organization stands for. Give them the value of becoming a member of AAUW. Give them the value of becoming a member of your branch. Make them never want to leave. And I know that that's a lot, but we are all part of this membership team with it. It is not just our membership vice presidents. We can't put it all on them. It's just each one of us have to take our part in this. So we have to go forward. So you're looking at your potential members, you're looking at your target market with it. We all talk about wanting to attract younger members. If that's your target market, look at ways to develop that. First of all, do you have younger members in your community with it? We have some retirement communities that maybe a younger member is 40. So younger member doesn't have to be a 20-something, a millennium or a Gen X. A younger member can be our mid-30s or mid-40s women. So don't shut it off based on a particular age. We need to look at being diverse and figuring out where and how we can approach those potential members and how we can bring them in. But I think, one of the things as you're celebrating recruitment, is you want to celebrate success. You want to celebrate the success of your branch and the success of your members. And you're going to hear me say this more than once today, because I think that it's vital. You know, our membership numbers are down. So we need to celebrate and enjoy our memberships as they are. One of the things with recruitment is Shape the Future, which is a national program. And Jenny's going to talk a little bit about that for us today.
I'm going to unmute myself. Shape the Future, which is called STF because we like to use acronyms all the time, is a program that is used by some branches and is horribly underutilized. As you all know, the half price dues went away several years ago, but people still like to see that. Well, Shape the Future allows someone to join your branch for half the cost of national dues, which at this time is $59. So that means it's $29.50, which is a nice little savings. That's a dinner out. Shape the Future is supposed to be used for branch meetings that are open to the public. Well, it doesn't mean that you have to have it in a public place. It means it's such that you invite other people to it. I've never been to a branch meeting that we couldn't invite guests. So those are public meetings. Then they're supposed to join at the time of the meeting. However, a lot of men don't carry their checkbooks with them anymore. Some don't even know what a check looks like, I think. So I usually say, 2 weeks at a max for them to say, yes, I want to join, and I'll send you my check. They send your check and filled out membership application. You can use this over and over and over again through the year. But the really awesome thing is that for every 2 Shape the Future memberships you get a free national membership, not a free state membership, not a free branch membership, but a free national membership. So it's $59 you can pass on to up to 3 people. And it's a great way to reward someone who's done a great job for your branch, or an older member, or you're trying to get someone into the branch that you'd like to join, but they're gone, well, I don't know. Well, this would be a great way to get them in. You could, like, branches have earned them already, and they can use those free memberships through June of next year. So you can use it for this membership cycle or for the membership cycle that starts next March 15th. Now you're all saying, oh, we don't have public meetings, we have Zoom meetings. If you can invite people to Zoom meetings and it's open to people that aren't members, then those are public meetings. Please use it, because that's what we have to do in this time. And just think of all the people that you could invite to a Zoom meeting. You don't have to worry about refreshments. You don't have to worry about room enough for them. You don't have to be making sure that they're not feeling awkward or anything like that. You can invite the whole neighborhood to a Zoom meeting. And it's a great opportunity, from the way I see it, to get new members. So I encourage everyone to use the Shape the Future program. It is still there. Other things like give a grad a gift are gone. Half your memberships are gone, but this program is still there. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. If you guys could take a minute, I want you to enter something into chat for me. I want you to enter in your branch name and how many years you've been an AAUW member. If you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. Totally fine. Just something I want us to see overall. And I'll start. I'll start too. Excellent. Jane has been 25 years. Look at this experience. I love this. Oh my gosh. So we have Marty and Gresham, 32. Leah, 7. Elena, online 4. Gosh, these are going so fast, I can't read them. Linda from Tigard area, 3.5. that Katie, Portland, 5 years. We're all over the place. Suzanne, 18 years. Sarah, 30 years in Bend. Look at this. Look at all this experience we've got in this room. This is perfect. I hope you guys can see this. So we've got numbers all over the place. We have representatives from all around the state that are with us today. Thank you for this. Totally thank you for this. Take a minute if anybody wants to share about perhaps your first experience with AAUW, or on the opposite extreme, tell me why you're still an AAUW member after the years you've been involved. Anybody want to talk? No speakers?
Okay.
All right, Pat.
My first experience with AAUW was when I lived in Wisconsin, and I learned that the local branch had its own house on the college campus, quite the palatial place that someone had left it in her will. And it was definitely the Twin Set and Pearls crowd. And they were definitely not welcoming. And it never dawned on me that AAUW had anything whatsoever to offer to me. So it was not an organization I pursued in any way in terms of becoming educated about what it stood for. If I had known anything about the mission, I might have, bitten the bullet and joined, or tried to. They probably would have bumped me right away. But then we moved to Oregon, and I had hardly been here at all before people in my community started asking me, oh, do you know anything about AAUW? Why don't you come to a meeting? I'll pick you up. I'll bring you to a meeting so you can see what we're about. And I did. I went to the first meeting. Everybody was wonderfully welcoming and friendly. And, over time, when I joined, Seaside Branch was my first branch. And the next year I joined in the fall, and the next spring, Seaside Branch was hosting the state convention. So we just plunged right into preparations. And immediately, I got hooked up with this committee and that committee and the raffle basket and all of these different things. So immediately I felt useful and valuable to the branch. And it just moved on from there, and it's just been a wonderful experience for me. I'm so glad. And one of the beautiful things for me as a new person to Oregon was that when I became membership chair the first time, I got to go all over the state, places I'd never have dreamed of going or never heard of before. Got to meet these fabulous women everywhere, many of whom are still my good friends. And that has been such an enriching experience for me, apart from, the mission or anything else, but just that network of wonderful women has just been a blessing.
The three key words I heard there: useful, valuable, and networking. Keep those in mind. Sarah, I see you're not muted. Did you want to talk?
Yeah, I was just saying.
Well, I'm sorry, but we have some hands up before Sarah.
Oh, did we? Okay, Nancy, lead us through.
Okay, so Karen, you have your hand up. Unmute yourself.
My question goes back to the previous little bit here about inviting the public to Zoom meetings. I understood, now maybe I'm wrong, that we aren't supposed to be inviting the public to come to our Zoom meetings because of the security issues involved. How do you vet them?
I guess I just hadn't thought about from that thing. If I have someone in my neighborhood that I think would be interested in AAUW, I can invite them. Nancy?
I think that was kind of what I was thinking too. And Karen, thank you for bringing it up. That generally when we bring people to meetings, prospective members, it's somebody we know, or we make the invitation. So I see no reason we can't extend an invitation and give the Zoom link to someone that we know or know about. But I agree that just putting it on Facebook and saying everybody's welcome to come to our meeting, it's problematic. You might want to put a step in between, and you know, everybody's welcome to come. Contact me for information, so that somebody is the intermediary between. That's kind of what I would, just off the top of my head, that's what I would recommend.
That wasn't really what I was implying to put it on Facebook. I'm just saying that if you had, it is a time where you can invite people who otherwise might not be able to come to a meeting.
So it's more of a personal invitation, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, we still have to use our heads.
Yeah.
So
So
security in place.
there's another question here from Trish, and she says
Well,
she's
sorry.
We had hands up first.
We had
Okay.
hands up first.
Sorry.
And Sue Thomas has her hand up. She was the next.
Well, when you ask how long I've been in AAUW, it gets me thinking. I have like 2 experiences with it. One when I was a recent college grad, and I was married and started having my family. We got together, it was in Berkeley, and they met at this beautiful University Women's Club, and we were all the same age, and we were all having our babies at the same time. So we started our own AAUW branch right there, and we had a babysitting co-op, and it went on for years. One of the best friends I ever made, and we all took care of each other's children, and it was just a very close-knit group. And then I finished my graduate studies, and I went on to work, and I was out for a long, long time. And then when I retired, I joined in Orinda Lafayette, and then I moved to Oregon. When I moved to Oregon, I looked up the Portland branch on their website, and I asked them when they met, and went to their meeting, and I was greeted very warmly, and so I joined, and it's been actually 12, 14 years now, and so I consider that a real success. If we could find ways to get people, young women are all working now, I understand, but there are some, and that are still at home or need those connections. And it's a good way to make connections with people who have the same interests and the same timing. So that's why.
Thank you. Thank you. Nancy,
Sarah?
who is next on our list?
Sarah.
Sarah.
On your question of how you joined, I had an interesting experience of how I joined. My mother signed me up right after I got home from college, and it was in the paper that they were having a tea, and she had always been so impressed with the group, even though she was never a member or a college graduate. She just signed me up and said I was going. But when I got there, a lot of the women were my teachers in school, in high school and stuff. And it was so impressive to me that these women would talk to me as a equal and had a lot of the same passions and stuff that I had. And that's why I ended up joining right at that time. And I've been a member ever since. And it was so welcoming at that point, because they just, oh, this was an old student, and just brought me into the fold. And, I never felt that there was a difference there. And so I think that's one thing that's really important, is when you bring people in that, welcome as who they are,
Thank you. All right, Nancy, anybody else?
We have no more hands up. Linda, you've got a real hand up.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm doing this wrong.
No problem.
There is no wrong or right, Linda. It's all good.
And then Marion's got a real hand up. And then we'll have Pat read Trisha's comments, if you could.
Okay. I was going to say I joined relatively recently, and it was somebody I had worked with. We got to talking books, and she goes, "You should come to AAUW and join the book club or book group." And so I said, oh, well, and they had a program meeting like that next week. So I went to the meeting, and I liked the group. Okay. And then, but I wasn't sure about joining. And then I went to the book group, and I met Marion, and I met Judy Silverforb, and I met a group of women who actually read the book and actually discussed the book, as opposed to a lot of book groups where you drink wine and gossip. And
That can be good too.
that can be good too. Yes, it can. But I was really impressed, and I enjoyed it very much. And then within a first month or so, Marlene Milliman was the president at the time, and she called me on the phone and invited me over to her house just to get acquainted and chatted. And we found out we were both from Wisconsin, and she was like, you really need to join. And you know, so I got a little bit of that kind of thing, but I have no regrets. It's kind of my nature to, if I join something, I get involved. I get engaged, because that's the only way I've learned in life that I get anything out of anything, is you have to make that level of commitment. But I also didn't really know about AAUW, and I didn't know about AAUW in Tigard. And so that's been one of my things. I am the membership person, and I go out and I talk to people, and the world is full of people who don't know about AAUW, which doesn't seem right. We've been around.
We got to fix that. We got to fix that, Linda.
I know. We've been around forever. We've done a lot of great things. So I feel like that's part of my challenge as membership, and part of our challenge too. But yeah, no, I'm glad I stayed. We've gone through a lot of changes. The person who invited me was gone within 4 months. So I got a little shaky at that point. But there was a thing where within 6 months of me joining, the branch was going to dissolve. And thank goodness Ilga stepped in and kind of saved it, because I was like, what's happening here? But no, all's good. I think it's a great organization, and I think we're starting to get people. As far as the young people go, I was really interested in what Kim had to talk about before, where there's like a separate approach they have going for young people. And I'm curious as to whether that's going to roll out to the states, and if there will be a version of that, maybe for the whole metro community or something, where it's not as branch specific. Because she was saying they don't want to join clubs, but they're engaging them in different ways. So I am curious about that too.
You can, excuse me, this is Pat. You can look up Equity Network on the national website and see lots and lots of activities and focuses that are really different from what we older folks do. Yeah.
And can we just start a branch or a version of that anywhere here?
I would suggest that you look it over first and decide what would be appropriate. Yeah.
Actually, the way it was described by Kim was that it's in a pilot mode right now.
That's right.
So for a year, and then if they think it's working, they'll figure out how to roll it out to the other states.
Yeah. So I think that's really great. Yeah.
And this has been a conversation at the national board level too. When we know that the branches want it or would like to pursue it, but Kim is, again, like you said, Pat Squire, it's still in a pilot stage.
That makes sense.
All right, Marion, I think was next on the list.
Yeah. Can you? I don't know how to unmute me.
No, you are unmuted. We can hear you.
Oh, you unmuted me. I'm reading what Trish Garner wrote, and that's kind of what I was going to question, was the idea. I do understand that we can have members who are 2-year college graduates, who are associate, I don't know exactly what they're called, but in terms of inviting people to join, I'm always a little awkward unless I know from what knowing their profession is, that I know for sure they're college graduates or community college graduates. And I wondered, if anybody has any answers to that.
That's a challenge. That's definitely a challenge.
Right.
It's trying to find ways to bring it up in discussion beforehand with it, without specifically saying, And Trish has kind of alluded to this in one of her notes as well.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, the membership discussion, and I'm going to table that for the most part, because this is a discussion that we will be having soon.
Okay.
And we don't have that much time, I think, today to go into, the pluses and the minuses of our membership requirements. So if everybody's okay, I think that this will definitely be a topic for another time, that we can dedicate our time and energy to that topic. So Trish, I hear you and I agree. And it is something that will come up in discussion, I promise you.
Okay. Thank you.
And Trish, I think, did Trish have some other information in here too that she was talking about? Where were we?
I think Trish just needs to talk a little bit about, she was glad that you introduced our value and our missions, but how much of our meetings and work is really dedicated to those.
Good question.
Trish, if you want to add, please just unmute and go in there.
Well, excuse me, I know I'm being somewhat of a firebrand here, but, to be provocative, I don't think we really want new members. I really don't. We're very happy. Thank you very much. Right where we are. We are also at a point in life where, frankly, I think we're just realizing we are the older generation. I mean, it's one thing to know we're old. It's another thing to, have challenges. But we're out there. So anyway, I am so passionate about this, as you can tell, and I apologize for provoking, but there's just no way I don't see how we're going to really move forward if we don't really address these issues. I mean, I am not against book clubs. I love book clubs. Believe me, I love, my breakfast group. But that's not what interests younger people. Maybe around an issue, but it also can't, one of the things, and I'll stop after this, Pat Lehman and now gone Karen Kenyon, but started the WINGS program, Women Interested in Going to School. And I got to tell you, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it is an absolutely fabulous one-day experience where women who are thinking of going back to school, either because they're divorced, widowed, their younger people didn't graduate from high school, and they have this, here are the ABCs of going to college. 101, that means an earlier course. 303, that means a later one. Here's financial aid, etc. But it's a one and done. At least it's done every year, but it's a one and done. A lot of work goes into it, and I've been there. I've done it too, but unless relationships are built, I love AUW because I can go off and do my public policy thing, and then I get to see you guys. But anyway, I'll stop.
No, Tricia, what you're saying is important. It is very important, and I want to make sure that you understand that I see that and I understand that. We have issues all over the place, and we have members that are interested in our mission. We have members that are interested in our book groups. What we have to do is figure out how and where to meet them. And as far as your question, do we want to grow? I can't answer that. I can only say, I hope we want to grow, and it's up to us to make that decision to go forward with that. But let's kind of move on. We're going to talk a little bit about retention. So we get our new members in.
There's one more hand up. Elena, do you have a quick question?
Sorry, Elena.
Quick comment.
I had an anecdote. In square dancing, they were always saying they were older than we are. We need young blood. We need to get young people. And again, young is defined as under 40. And so we got a couple of real go-getters, sharp, interested, and they trained to be callers, and they were writing dances up and choreographing them, and they were sabotaged by the old people who wanted things to stay the same, and they left the groups, and there was a lot of hard feelings, and the whole thing was, well, we don't do things that way. And it turned out they didn't really they wanted new members just like them. But they were saying, we want young members. And when young people would show up, they would be welcomed effusively. It was only when they started trying to actually participate and give that it was like, well, you know, you're going to be doing it this way, our way. And it just killed the whole idea, you know, get the young blood and creativity in. And one of the first things I plan on asking my branch is, do you want to grow the membership? Because I look around at the composition, and half of the members have been state president, and the other half have had state offices or local presidencies. And my question is, do you want Mary run-of-the-mill in, or are you happy having it this experienced group of women and also the president?
It could be a challenge. I mean, they talked about it this morning. You know, Barbara and Julia talked a lot about change and what a challenge that can be and how hard that can be for us. But change is happening, and change is something that we all are going to have to face to go forward with that. So let's go on. I'm going to take us just the next step for just a minute real quick here and talk about retention. And we'll open up a little bit more in a minute. But what I want you to know about retention, it starts with the first contact and it continues through the entire relationship with it. It's our branch's ability to attract and retain members. It's related not only to the benefits of joining AAUW and supporting our mission, but also satisfying and rewarding experience of being part of the branch and a member of the team. It's more about just meeting expectations. It's about exceeding expectations. So there's 7 different keys to keep in mind when we're looking at retention. One is encouraging member involvement. We've talked about that. Creating value, communicating appropriately, using a multi-layer approach for renewal, surveying your former members, focus on a target audience. You know, in encouraging involvement, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You find out a lot of you do membership cards when they first join that asks about hobbies and interests and professions. And a lot of our branches take that and they roll with it. They'll get in touch with that person and say, oh, I see that you're a CPA. Would you be interested in helping us with finance? Or whatever those interests may be, and plugging them in and meeting them at their needs. It's not about what is best for us. It's about what's best for them and what's going to be interesting to them and engaging. To a lot of people, I hope that it's our mission and it's the work that we're doing, but we have to know that there are people that are more interested in social. So we meet them where their needs are as well. We have to create different paths to engagement. It requires different levels of commitment. We have some members that just want to help out with a one-day event, like with our frog affair or our kitchen tour in my branch. Or you have other members that want to come to our branch meetings or get involved in the board meetings. So watch and pay attention and learn and listen and get to know them. But we also need, and this is very, very important, we need to appreciate our members of our branch, not just the new members coming in. Each and every one of our members in our branch is important. And you've heard me say it before, you know, we are all one team and we need to express that value to each other. We need to express how much we care and it's important with that. Because those relationships we all know is what will continue us. So reach out, don't be afraid to say, thank you for what you've done. I appreciate that. Or, gosh, it's so good to see you. Or if you miss somebody in a meeting, pick up a phone and say, wow, we haven't seen you for a couple months. Is everything okay? Keep that communication and that connection going. You know, you want to create value throughout your year. You want to coordinate your activities with branch leadership. You want it to be meaningful and fun with your programs. With that, each branch develops program based on what their needs are for their branch. A lot of people will do a lot of community involvement. Hopefully some mission work is in there as well. I know we used to have tools on the national website that we can use, and I think that's been shifting as far as some national programs. But, you know, communication, if that, mentorship, if that works, assigning a member, but just being aware with that. Develop a planned approach for connection with that. We have, I can't remember the technical name of it, but we have somebody in charge of sending out cards in our branch. birthday cards, get well cards, sympathy cards. And again, it just lets them know that they're important, that they're remembered and they're thought about. And that's what makes them want to come back with that. Our members that have left with that, I think it's important for us to do exit interviews with it. Find out why they're not joining, why they're not continuing. We're going to have natural attrition. Unfortunately, we have health issues and aging, some people that have moved, but there are some people that leave because we don't fit their needs. They're not feeling that connection. So exit interviews can help us readjust our plans. It can help us readjust how we work and sit down and have a dialogue. Change is going to be necessary. We were talking about that a while ago, but change can be hard for our branches with that. We get into, as she said, the same old, same old. This is the way it's always been. So we're not going to change. We're not going to bring us up to anything relevant. That, for me, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not what's going to carry us into the future. And I think that we are such an incredible, vital, intelligent organization of women that we're beyond that. We can go way, way, way beyond that. So I don't see that as a stopping point for us. I see it as a point to jump forward. But again, each branch, you guys are individual. You have to work out what works best for you as you're going through. So tell me, let's talk again. We're kind of gonna short on time, but let's talk for just a few minutes about what works in your branch for retention. What special things do you guys do in your branches to keep your members coming back? No, any hands up? Sue, Thomas?
Well, I don't know if it's so much retention, except that I know that during this period of time, change is just all we've got. We're looking at all these changes that have really our whole world is turned upside down. And so it kind of makes people, from my perspective, more willing to change and more willing to look at what the issues are. And I back Trish in what she says, but I also look at things that we've done, like starting all the Zoom meetings, and many of our interest groups have gone onto Zoom. When we first went into lockdown, we started calling all our members to find out how they were and what they were, and we continue to do that, which I think is really good. But I also think that now is the time that we might be able to make some really effective changes too, if we go about it the right way, in a thoughtful way.
You're right, totally. Nancy, any other hands up? Okay, then I think, Sue, it's a good segue to go into our next segment. It is hard to get people to pay attention in a Zoom meeting at times, but our world has changed. We have to do things differently with it. And maybe it's, I don't know, would you try to look at positives for everything we've gone through? Maybe this is one of the positives. It's like suddenly our world is out from underneath us and it's not the way it's always been. So our comfort zones have been taken away. So we have to come up with new ways to make our lives work. Not only our volunteer lives, our personal lives, everything has changed. For me, not having the one-on-one engagement or meeting in person, I miss the heck out of my hugs. I want my hugs back. But right now, that's not a safe thing. Yeah, thank you, Lee. Thank you. Right back at you, girl. But I hug my grandkids. Nobody's stopping me from hugging my grandkids. So, but we have to, our world has changed. So now we're meeting in different ways. We're having to accommodate how we're facing our realities. So we're doing Zoom, we're doing Google Duo, we're doing FaceTime, we're doing connection phones with it. We're doing a lot of different ways. Sorry, I meant conference phones. So we're having to deal with things virtually instead of in person. Someday, maybe we'll get back to in person, but right now, this is where we're at. This is our reality. But we have people in Zoom, and I'm looking around at our faces now, and it's hard sometimes to get people to pay attention and to focus on what we're doing with that. So, think back to some of the reasons we have meetings and why we're doing it on Zoom. We want to establish communication. It's to make decisions and share information, problem solving. We want to strengthen relationships. But an effective meeting needs to involve voluntary engagement. So we're going back to Pat Squire with her discussion on engagement. We have to be able to engage when we're working with Zoom or some of the other ways that we're doing it virtually these days. When we're meeting in person, we can have a discussion. We can base our reactions on eye contact, on body language, on our tone of voice with it. When you're leading a Zoom meeting and you're losing your attention, you start getting all hyper, you get worried, and you go faster, and you lose them even more. So you're not engaging those people to stay with you. So I don't know about you, but I have been in Zoom meetings, I've gone to my happy place. Nancy Brown brings me back and tells me to stop being happy. So focus in on what you're trying to do to pay attention with that. So you want to engage your members. So you have to be energetic, purposeful, and you want your meetings to be staged. You want it to be a direct conversation. So when I'm talking with Trish, I want Trish to think it's just she and I that are here. Nobody else exists except Trish and I as we're having this discussion. That's not an easy thing to do because I'm a talking bobblehead, right? But think, okay, so think back. Did anybody ever watch the old Hollywood Squares game? Yeah, okay, so I'm thinking Phyllis Diller in the corner. That's where I'm going with that. And I have been known to think that as I'm going, okay, I see Paul Lind over here. So it's just little ways to help engage my brain. But when you're developing your meetings, some suggestions. You want to plan from your audience perspective. How much do they know about the topic with it? And how can I help you learn and understand the topic? You want to use an easy to follow structure. You want to introduce your core concepts and goals. You want to elaborate on the various points in more detail. You know, draw some logical conclusions from it. And you want to leave your audience with a takeaway message. And hopefully a couple things that you can take back and think about later with that. You want to get your members immediately involved. Try an icebreaker if that helps to get them focused and energized. You want to ask questions of your audience to get them focused and energized. You want to have them answer in person or use the chat function. Include a short video that reinforces your presentation. YouTube can be good with it. Invite people onto the stage. Invite people to talk. Invite you to be a part of the organization and the discussion. Poll your audience. Ask the questions. Use humor. I tend to be kind of a smart mouth, and I tend to kind of interject humor where it doesn't necessarily belong. I get the look from Pat Squire going, you're at it again. No, really, she doesn't. She doesn't. Try and relate to your audience. You want to make comparisons to event from everyday life. Bring in your personal stories if that's possible. Strong body language, it's really important in your Zoom meetings. So as I'm kind of going through this list, we did a lot of this today. I think we put a lot of components into our talk today, into our session. I don't know if that's made it better or worse.
Sue, I want to add to your strong body language. If you're not an energetic speaker, sitting down is not a good idea. You might want to actually stand up and run your Zoom meeting. That brings more energy to you. You can, wobble around a little bit, and, people that aren't terribly, you and I, we can sit all day long and be crazy people. A lot of people need that standing up so that they feel more in control and powerful.
I agree. And I prefer when I'm speaking to be able to walk around. I'm a type A person. Sitting in one place is a hard thing for me with that. So I'm doing my moving and shaking in my chair.
Sharon has a finger up.
Sharon.
Unmute yourself, sweetie.
I have to add this. One of the things, everything Sue says is great and very important, but there's a phrase called "what's in it for me" or "with them," and we don't do a good enough job inside or outside, and I'm as guilty as anybody else, so this is not the pot calling the kettle black. We don't say, this is important to you because da-da-da-da. I'm pretty passionate about public policy, and I know people who couldn't care less. And sometimes I can still get them to respond if I can convince them that it makes a difference to them personally. That's the big
issue of engagement is what's in it for them, not what's in it for me, what's in it for them. Why would they want to be part of us? And there are ways to do that, but I think we have to start understanding that to some degree we're marketing. And if I got 7 vacuum cleaners I can choose from, how do I decide which one? It's the one that makes my life easiest.
Excellent. Well said. Well said.
So when we talk to people, it's got to be, I know this about you potentially, and I know that this group would help you reach your goals on this topic.
Where they need. Perfect.
And it could be a book club, it could be public policy, it could be the community college, it could be anyone, but it's when you say meet them where they are, you have to tell them where they are in connection to who you are.
So therefore our mission comes in.
Right.
Good, Sharon, good. Nancy, we have anybody else with hands up? All right, so one more question, and I know we're kind of getting here on time. What are your branches doing in today's virtual world to engage your membership? What's working for your branches? We need ideas and to share this. This is something that we all need help with. Georgia, Georgia?
What?
You unmuted yourself.
Well, I did, but I wanted to go back to what Elena said. So often we have our heads in our world and what we know and our culture, and we have to work very hard at opening up ourselves and opening up our own view. And when we have people that come to us and are willing to join, and we want activity and we want people to be active, and then it's like being a parent and you have children and you want them, you raise them to be independent thinkers, and when they start thinking and they aren't little copies of you and they start thinking their own thoughts, you have to support them in thinking their thoughts. And if their thoughts and the activities that they want to do are in keeping with the mission and take us forward, we as branch members must support that. Instead of saying, oh, we want you to think the way we think. And I support what Elena is saying, and I support what Trish is saying. We must break down our own older way of thinking and be open to a newer way of thinking. And and I can't remember the name of the network.
Equity Network.
Yeah. Those folks are younger, they're in their 30s and 40s, and they aren't joiners. They are very issue driven, and they believe in the issues that we believe in and we are working towards, but they really aren't joiners particularly. And so I'm very excited about it too, Linda. And I would love to see it in Oregon. I would love to see it in more of our urban areas. I think that's where it would first work, but I can see it also working in our rural areas. But we as an organization must be open to the way they want to work, working side by side with us, not as a membership group as we were, is something we need to think about. And I'll hush now.
Change and adaptions, absolutely.
Yeah.
Linda, did you have something to add?
Well, I was just kind of tagging on to what she said. I've talked to a lot of people about AAUW and being interested in joining. And And one of the conversations that I keep seeming to have with people is, you know, what does AAUW do? And I will talk to them about what we do as a branch, and we have our program meetings, and we have our interest groups, and we do all this. But they says, yeah, that's all fine and, you know, fine and good, but what do you do? And what they're really asking is, how do you impact the greater community, the greater world? And then I can kind of refer them to the national, but at the local level, that's an opportunity for us, you know, to engage at maybe a more rooted level in our community, to where, and I was very impressed with some of the programs that you guys talked about the other day. I think some of our communities are probably doing a better job than we are. But I think that's maybe a level that younger people are more interested in. They want to change the world. And we need to be an avenue for them to do that and get onto a bigger stage and be part of something that can help them achieve what they really want to achieve.
I think that they're realizing this at national level, and I think this is why we're seeing some of our focuses that are changed. And
yeah, so I think it's coming.
It has to come. I mean, it has to come. With it again, you know, it can't be the same old. It doesn't work. Trust me, I work in a male-oriented industry, and we've always done it that way, and it's had to shift and change over the years. And these last few years, it's done a lot of changing with it, but it takes time to make and facilitate that happen, and it has to take a plan with that. I want to leave you today, and then we'll open up if there's any other discussion with it. I want you to try to focus on positivity in your branch with that. And I know where we're at right now, life is a little scary. You know, we're really are in a total different virtual reality. We've hit that twilight zone. But I want you to focus on positive vibes. V for vibe, V in vibes means visibility in your local community. I for information about your branch, state, and national. Your mission statements, our value statements, what it is we're doing with it, what impact we're making exactly. B for balance. You want to balance your personal life and your volunteer life. We're all volunteers here. We're all volunteers. E for enthusiasm at all times. You need to be excited, celebrate your members, celebrate what we do, celebrate what we're a part of, because we are part of an incredible organization. And S for solidarity is creating fellowships between your members. So focus on creating positive vibes. That's my thought for the day. Do we have any other thoughts or discussions going on?
I'd like to point out Joyce's comment. I'm interested to hear what programs other branches are planning to be conducted by Zoom. I think that's a really great way to pick others' brains, not just knowing what programs they're doing as far in the community, but now what are you doing online on Zoom? What are you doing online that other people can borrow and use?
Question, chime in.
Marion, unmute yourself. Oh, I got you.
Thank you. Our branch has been having what they call 3 o'clock in the afternoon, bring your own booze. And somebody hosts it and they ask a question. It's limited to 8 people who sign up ahead. And the question is mainly oriented towards getting to know each other and sharing things about each other that we wouldn't have known otherwise. The questions have had to do with where you lived when you were 10 years old, what your favorite travels were, different things like that. And it seems to be working. It seems to be giving people a chance to get to know each other.
I like that. That's good. That's good. Anybody else? There's a lot of different things you can do on Zoom. Elena?
I've got an idea for a program to have on Zoom. And it's to explore intersectionality with feminism and equity, well, particularly the Black Lives Matter movement and everything around it, white supremacy. And it's a Black feminists have had to make their own group because they weren't finding the right fit with the mainstream white feminist movement. And I thought, whoa, that's something they know that I don't know. So that's a program idea. And I thought to do it, my idea is to find existing video online and pass it out ahead of time, watch these, come into the meeting for discussion. That's it.
Yeah. Marty, you had, I think, did you have your hand up, Marty Stevens? Okay, now we can hear you.
Oh, I'm unmuted. I pressed that button 3 times.
Yeah, but then I go and unmute you and that mutes you back.
It's a battle of the muting. It's a muting battle.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention most branches have Facebook pages. And yes, we know Facebook is used by older people now, not many younger people. However, most of us also know how to go to find and like or follow someone's Facebook page. And if we would do that, especially as branch leaders, we would find out the events, because of course branches post their events on their Facebook page and invite others. So I've been clicking on other branches around the nation whose Facebook pages I follow and get incredible Zoom meetings with incredible content and concepts. Intersectionality, for instance, racism, STEM, you name it. And but we could do that in Oregon if we made a concerted effort to ask the branch leaders, just specifically, use your Facebook page, connect with others' Facebook pages, then you'll have a direct connection to their events, and we're all connected.
Question. Do you know whether branches are all joining Zoom, or are branches collaborating to pay for the membership to Zoom? Does anybody have that data?
Well, give us a hands up. Give us a hands up. How many people that are here today, how many of their branches are meeting by Zoom? Just hands up. I'm seeing pretty much everybody.
I know in our branch, there were 2 of us. I have my own small business, so I have a Zoom account, and also has a Zoom account, a paid account. So between the 2 of us, we're basically creating all the meetings, because we can create, whatever timeline we want and schedule it out a month in advance and all that good stuff. So
good to know.
Yeah.
I'm relying on members' paid accounts and fallback for Oregon AAUW. I have 2 members offered, and one of those will be used for the next meeting. But I know this is an issue with Eugene Lane, and it's on their docket for the next meeting. It should be nice to coordinate this.
Yeah, because I did a little bit of homework for the Eugene Lane membership right now. I think our current president pays for it and we reimburse her, but there is a separate membership level for a tax exempt or charitable or nonprofit organization. I didn't go that deeply into it, but I think it's probably something we should all figure out how to take advantage of, and maybe it's something the state could do, and then I don't know. I have no idea, and then make it available. I have no idea, but it's it's pretty cost effective. I have a small business too, so I have my own Zoom account.
Yeah,
and it's
from a cost perspective for a branch, it's cheaper than we were paying $30 a month for the library room, and it's $10 a month basically for expanded Zoom.
Right,
so it's mine.
That would be my point. Take that money you would normally spend in doing meetings and invest it in Zoom with it. I think Lee, your hand was up.
And then Monica.
I was just going to say that I paid for it as president and got reimbursed. Yeah. And the same thing you just mentioned, that it was money we were saving from not meeting in person, including rental fees and food. Mm-hmm. We easily are still saving money by going to Zoom.
Yeah, and not attending convention.
Great.
Who's the next question, Nancy?
Monica? Sorry, I just muted you. Go ahead. Do it yourself.
Okay. Like somebody else, we are currently relying on 2 members' business Zoom accounts, but that may end in November or December. We have no operating revenue stream other than our dues, which have been severely decreased. And even when I was finance officer last year, only budgeted for $1,300. The Zoom is like for 10 months, it's $150. It's $15 a month. We have not been paying any monthly fees for program meeting rooms or anything like that. We've been meeting for free at the credit union meeting room. So we don't have program money to take and put to Zoom. And I, through our South District representatives, requested that they ask state if they had any money, rather than having each individual branch having to figure out how to do this, or if we could create one statewide account and all hold our own meetings underneath it. But I was told state didn't have any money either. It seems like this is something that could be addressed at the national level, with all these little branches trying to figure it out. That's all.
Nancy, do you want to chime in on this one?
Well, I first want to say that there are a number of branches that have their own account, and members are chipping in to do that. Members that would normally bake the cookies or bring the refreshments are chipping in the cost of whatever they would do. I don't know what branch you're in, Monica. Are you in Medford?
Yeah.
Okay. Medford, how many members do you have?
Well, we had about 100. Only 2/3 have renewed.
Okay. So, if every member chipped in $3.
Yeah, I know that. My point is a larger point. I guess this is a problem for everyone, every branch in the nation now. It seems like instead of each one having to find their own solution, it could be addressed on a national level. But
you know what? The national budget has been cut how many millions of dollars in the last number of years?
Yeah.
I really doubt that they're going to be able to fund us at the local level to do this. I'm just saying, the money, we need to figure out our strategies for ourselves. I have helped a number of branches use the state Zoom. Georgia, if you disagree with me, let me know, but I'm not going to give access to the whole statewide all the branches in the state to our statewide Zoom, just because of security purposes. It's not going to happen. So maybe we can find some grant money. Maybe we can find, but other branches are being very innovative in how they're doing it. And so I'm not helpful, I'm afraid. I can help you get some of your meetings on Zoom as we get started in the new year. I'm willing to do that to run them and get them started for you. But the money, Georgia, you're the chair of the technology committee. You chime in.
Zoom is only $150 a year. If you buy a yearly subscription, you don't have to go month to month. You can pay up for 1 year for $150. It's not that onerous, especially for a large branch. And as many people have said, that many people have their own Zoom Pro account. Medford certainly can afford to pay their own Zoom account. I know Grants Pass has their own Zoom account. Ashland certainly can pay for their own Zoom account. With the branches that are very, very small, like 30, 40 people, even some of them are paying their own Zoom account. State does not have the budget to pay for a Zoom account for every person. And the presidents are the ones who are going to have to authorize anything at state anyway. National is definitely not going to set a precedent of providing Zoom funding for any of the states or any of the branches within the states. So it is going to be up to each branch to come up with the funding for their own Zoom.
And isn't it true that you need a local host to schedule all the meetings? So if, for example, we aren't going to, but if we use the state AAUW, then one person would be putting together the schedule for every single branch because they start the meeting, unless it's changed.
Well, what I do for the iSchedule, and for example, Bend has asked me to host their meetings a couple of times, is because they were going through some transitional times. And yes, I scheduled that, gave the link, the Zoom information to Sarah to send out to your branch members, and then I started the meeting, and then I bailed on you and turned Sarah into the host. So, but I knew she knew how to do this. I'm not just going to do that to just any chick down the street. So,
well, in that it makes it cumbersome. So if there's some way to swing your own membership, it's easier to schedule and control when and where you do things.
So let's segue this out a little bit. For those branches that have questions, talk to Nancy directly. She's doing everything that she can. Once we're done with summer skills camp, give her a little bit of time to rest. We've overworked this woman.
I still have to edit all the videos. I want you to know that takes some time.
Okay, so we're going to give her time. But
I just want to say, Susan, Harmony, yes, Zoom is free for 40 minutes. So if you want to have a short meeting, that would maybe cause your people to get to the point, and that might be good for board meetings, especially. A private personal account is free, and for 40 minutes. So, and sometimes Zoom these days, because they're being very generous, they don't hold you to the 40 minutes, but that can't be guaranteed. So
but you
can get kicked off or they're nice. Sharon Noon, you're waving your hand at us. Unmute yourself. I'm not doing it anymore.
You also can string the 40 minutes along. We had a board meeting, and the person who had the Zoom account set up 3 40-minute meetings. So, I mean, if you're really in a bind financially, you can figure out a way around it. Now, it's a pain because you have to go out and come all the way back in.
On a different link.
But it's possible.
I like that. That's very clever.
You can do it. All right, Elena, real quick, and I know we're already at 2:20, so.
It's on the same subject as far as stringing them together. You also can use your own ID to set up the meeting, and my assumption is that you could set up meetings 1, 2, 3 right after each other, in which case you would have the same password. I don't know if you can still get away without, meeting ID. I don't know if you can still get away without using a password. They're kind of going to force that. But if you commit to doing sequential meetings, it can be simplified by using a unique identifier, which you get when you sign up for the account. I'm done.
I'm glad to see so many branches are using Zoom around as finding ways of keeping connected and keeping that communication level open. It's so important that we proceed however we need to proceed to get our connections going. But thank you so much.
I want to make another comment for Monica.
Of course you do. Nancy,
well, here's the deal. We're all having this conversation. Nobody's bailing. So let's continue the conversation for people that need the information.
Okay, good. As long as we can keep our time going, I'm good with that.
There are other avenues. Skype, you can do groups. I don't think you can do a group as big as your branch, but Skype is free. Google has now a meeting. I've never used it, but Google has a meeting something or other if you use Google. I've
used Google
Linda,
Duo for small groups.
She's laughing at me. What?
I've used Google Duo for small groups, which are an interesting way to do it. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. And the new one's just called Google Meetings.
Google Meetings, yes. So, everybody else is looking at what Zoom is accomplishing and saying, ooh, we're late to the party, we better join in. So, you know, there's other options, and certainly we can explore them together if you wish. I've not done them, so what can I say? But Zoom, you know, based on, compared to what I used to run with GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, Zoom is definitely inexpensive. So but there's other options. I've done a lot of work on Skype and with small groups. I don't know how big you want to go on Skype, but you can do these kinds of things on Skype.
It's becoming more and more necessary. There's going to be more and more technology available. There are going to be new ways to do this developed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Any last questions for Sue, or comments or suggestions? Monica, looks like you're raising your hand again.
I am, and it's not for Sue. And anyway, thank you everybody for all your comments. I didn't intend it to be that long. I have a related question for Nancy, though, which is about recording, because when we're talking about using Zoom accounts for board meetings, our leadership wanted to record it, but now Nancy's referred more than once to editing time. And so
well, let me tell you why.
Pardon?
Let me tell you why. It's
Yes.
nothing to do with the recordings. It's just, I turn the recording on when I get into the thing about a half hour before we start the session. Sometimes I'll mess up getting the link going on the Twilight Zone music. I edit in my own editing software before I post it onto YouTube, because I don't want all of our, you know, gobbledygook in the beginning and maybe the end of our meetings to be posted to YouTube for posterity too. Okay. It's not something you would do unless you're putting it on YouTube and want some things edited out.
So what would you, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so what would you recommend that branches do for recording their board meetings and membership/program meetings?
Zoom records for you.
Right. I mean, as far as posting for other members to see.
You could use YouTube. I'm putting all of these on YouTube.
But like
YouTube's free.
Public, right?
Well, you can make them private and only give the link to your members. And Bev is nodding her head. I'm making it public because I want people to join us.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Or if you have a Facebook group that's only your members, I'm not talking about a Facebook page where anybody and their brother can come to, but a group that your members are only people that have access, you can post videos in your group as well.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, we have just about 3 or 5 people using Facebook.
Yeah, that's pretty common. Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the questions that we're going to be asking on our survey, and it's going to be a really short survey, Nancy's putting it together so you know it'll be beautiful and easy, but one of those questions is, do you want to continue with some of these kinds of programs through maybe the fall or the winter, since we're probably not going to get together in person in the fall, even for district meetings? So think about that and think about what topics, you know, Monica, you might suggest a topic on how to do some of this stuff that Nancy's been doing. There was some question about maybe having Claudia do some role playing for some of these Robert's Rules of Orders issues. Sorry, personally, but anyway, but we will be asking you for what kind of information that you're going to want going forward for the next maybe 6 months or so. So Sue, thank you so much. And I think you're the membership guru as far as I can tell. You and Ginny are a great combination. So it was great to hear some of your suggestions, and also, as usual, to hear from all of us, everyone else attending, because that's part of this whole process, is to get everybody chatting. I do want to remind you about tomorrow at 1 o'clock. This is going to be a celebration. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to sort of wrap up and maybe get some of your thoughts. We have a couple of awards to give, so it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be fairly brief tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I'm sure that Nancy will send you another wonderful email about it, or maybe not. Maybe it's just today's email.
One more. Sing
one
around
more.
the
Okay.
fire. We gotta, you know, sing, hold hands, and go out together.
Don't forget your camp coloring
Yeah, there might
Yeah.
be a prize. Then again,
Yeah,
there
it might
not.
be a prize.
Then
Yeah.
again, there might not.
Pat,
Sue?
Linda asked a question about the positive vibes. In the information that Nancy's going to make available in the retention section, it's at the very end of that. So it's there.
Would you talk about the handouts? I've got a question about handouts. Would you tell people what they're getting?
Okay, there are essentially 3, and just keep in mind they're my notes and they're fluid, that's ever changing thoughts on there. But there's one on growing membership, there's one on retention, and there's a third on enhancing membership engagement in today's virtual reality. I think I included that as well. So those will be available if I help. And again, they're fluid documents that are always in change. So take what works, don't take what works. All good.
Okay.
Keep those positive vibes going. Keep them going.
What are you doing, Pat?
Just taking a real picture.
She's taking a selfie of all of us, huh? And there's
There we go. Scooby says hi.
There's Scooby. Hi, Scooby.
All right. Now,
All right, I'm going to go take a nap.
Yourself into. All right, get out of here. Everybody, go home.
Thank you.
Okay, great to see y'all.